In this video, we're going to tell a story. We're going to tell the story about how an iconic Las Vegas landmark property is being razed to the ground if all things come to pass. There's a story about the politicians that are involved that think you're stupid. There are ulterior motives for actually doing things under the cover of a holiday so you didn't have a voice in the deal. And the horrible business involved that has actually increased in value every single year for several years, while at the same time claiming that they lost money on an operational basis year after year. So I have a question for you before we start the story. What if a company was completely crooked and corrupt? They're only interested in getting somebody else's money to do business, and they'll go wherever it might take. That company came to you and they asked you, hey, can we make a deal with you? Can we take a giant loan, nearly $500 million worth, and pay you back over 30 years? Our numbers are good, we promise. Would you do business with that entity? Now, if you knew also at the same time that this business was taking free stimulus money, sharing with other businesses within their realm, and they were intended to help improve their product, but at the same time, they absolutely destroyed their product on purpose so they could pocket the money, would you trust the company and want to do business with them? And lastly, if this company that was asking you for money completely refused to disclose what their profits and losses were and how bad things were, would you give them a loan? This is the story of the Oakland Athletics and Las Vegas. This is the Oakland Athletics asking for massive amounts of public money, spinning a tale about how it'll benefit the city, and the harsh reality of who actually loses and who wins. My name is Steven. I'm not leaving Las Vegas, and this is a twisted tale of the Las Vegas, or should I say Oakland, or should I say who knows athletics, and where they will end up and how they will get there. Let's get into it. So the story starts off like most sports teams in Vegas that aren't called the Golden Knights or the Aces, up in Oakland, California, where the Oakland Athletics needed a place to play. The age-old Oakland Alameda Coliseum was all the Oakland Athletics' property after the Raiders came to Vegas, and they needed a new stadium badly. We covered this in a previous video where I called the Athletics baseball royalty because they won all those World Series back in the day. But it's come to light that this team is only interested in money. They came to Vegas looking for a land deal and played Vegas against the Oakland government. When the Oakland government's mayoral person changed to a new mayor, it seemed like the deal fell apart, and early May, the Athletics announced that they had a deal with Red Rock Resorts here in Vegas. There was only one problem with the deal. The deal wouldn't be fully paid for by somebody else. So of course, being strictly adamant that they use OPM or other people's money in the deal, the Oakland Athletics decided to go against the land purchase with Red Rock Resorts because they couldn't get $500 million from the local and state government under the new governorship of Joe Lombardo. And they decided to look elsewhere, looking at Phil Ruffin, who owns the Circus and the land on Sahara, which they could have gotten for $1. And choosing instead, first bad business management thing in this whole video, and we'll get to many more as we go, so stay tuned, to go into a deal with Bally's. Not the Bally's that you know. I did a video on this in the last year. No, the new Bally's that owns the Tropicana. This deal is bizarre, and it simply doesn't work. But the politicians involved, they love the deal, which we'll explain in a moment or two. Oh, and you know what's not bizarre and what totally does work? If you were to subscribe to this channel right now. So the Oakland Athletics went on to try to prove their case about why they should receive, realistically, probably closer to $500 million directly from the state, issued as bonds to be paid back over a long time, why they should receive that money at basically no cost. And they claimed things like, we're going to sell out every game, even though the smartest economists in the world and the smartest baseball people on the planet said, no, you're not. There's no reason for you to be able to sell out every game. They said, we're going to create thousands of jobs and bring a ton of concerts to the city. Meanwhile, people who know Vegas say, what about that giant stadium called Allegiant that's booked out for the next 3 years? How's that going to work? Those jobs don't work as well either, because if you get hired by the Athletics to work baseball games, you're working maybe, what, 3 days a week? Yeah, this might actually create about 200 full-time jobs after we do some fancy math and put together all the part-time jobs involved in the project. It simply is weird, and it's not proving its case to anybody. But that's not the worst part about it. The worst part about it is the complete lack of support and the complete lack of the politicians to listen to the people. So check this out. Now, of course, the politicians have to listen to the people, right? So the Nevada State Legislature, who has to vote on this entire quagmire of ridiculousness, they did have a public hearing. You know what day they did that public hearing? They did it on Memorial Day. just about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they did it the worst possible day that they could have it. They did it on a day that basically buries it in the news cycle. A day where I don't even think the state legislature has regular sessions for public hearings. They discussed it for 6 hours on the one day in the springtime before the end of the legislative session on June 5th, where people were busy having barbecues and observing a nationwide holiday. How honest is that? But why would those legislatures really want this deal to go through that badly? That's the mysterious question. And for that, I think I actually might have some answers, at least ones that I've cooked up. They're all allegedlys, by the way. So the thing about politicians is funny. They all want to get elected in the future, and since we don't have any kind of term limits in this country for most positions in our government, except for the president and a few other spaces, they tend to refer back to their resume when they're trying to get elected. This is something that I believe Steve Sisolak, our former governor who was defeated by Joe Lombardo, did when he was running for re-election.
The Knights, Raiders, Aces, and Formula One are more than just great sports. They're creating jobs.
And we're just getting started.
He lost the election, but he kept referring back to how he helped get the Raiders to Vegas, and that's actually not untrue. Yeah, he did sit on the county commissioners, which is the body that makes all the decisions here in Clark County for everything that happens in Vegas. And he did push to get the Raiders Allegiant Stadium and the team here. But I think that's what this is. I think the politicians in this case are going hog wild, having, you know, all of their needs met. Politicians didn't get out of work during the pandemic. You did. Politicians didn't have their health care throttled. You did. They have everything set for life. So the politicians are using this, I believe, as a way to get clout so they can say they voted for the team after all the dust has settled and they're up for re-election years from now when our collective consciousness has basically forgotten that we're giving $500 million in free public funding to this team that has no real business plan. And it gets worse for the team. Let's get into some details about how crooked this team is that I alluded to in the first part of this video. So what's the real deal with this Oakland team? Well, according to Forbes magazine's valuations, the team has actually risen from about $700 million in total overall value to just over 1.2, if not 1.3 billion in the last few years. Yet, like most smaller market teams in Major League Baseball, and don't get this wrong, the Oakland Athletics are a smaller market team playing out of Oakland and having to compete directly with the San Francisco Giants. They've been taking revenue sharing for years. And revenue sharing in Major League Baseball or hockey or other sports is where the big teams that make all the money, they give to the smaller teams to keep the smaller teams in business. Now, unlike most teams who would put that directly into the team's payroll to get new players on board and make the team competitive so they can do better for their fans and win championships, yeah, the Athletics didn't do any of that. What they did is actually one of the most crookedest things of all. They simply let all of the good on-field players go and just traded them to other teams and shortened up the payroll, and apparently, according to reports, allegedly took that money, pocketed it all, and turned a profit with it. There's a bit of a controversy when Forbes magazine, who runs Major League Baseball valuations for the team, reported that the Athletics made somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million, later revised to only $29 million. But the team owner said, no, we didn't make that money. As a matter of fact, we posted a $9 million loss. Funny how that works, isn't it? So to recap this whole entire messy situation, we have a team that is so ineptly run that has absolutely no transparency in its books, who has been accused of basically embezzling revenue share money to go back into their profit streams while not reporting their real numbers. We have that same organization that can't really disclose anything to anybody, crying poor and saying that they need a new building in Las Vegas. They're claiming that every single game will be sold out and that people will go through the ends of the earth to try to get to the team to watch them play, and that it's really a great deal for the county to give nearly 40% of all of the taxpayer money that comes from the gaming sector every year up front to a baseball team who doesn't seem to have their you-know-what together to start with. You have politicians who love to remind people about how they triumphed and got a professional sports team to Vegas, who are having votes on Memorial Day, a day when absolutely nobody is going to show up to the state legislature to actually be heard, and all the while you have you, me, and everybody else losing an iconic property on the Las Vegas Strip. This is just my bad hot take on it, but it seems to me like the Oakland Athletics organization are some of the worst run people in the entire Major League sports realm. You never hear of the Golden Knights doing anything like this, or the New York Yankees, or the San Francisco Giants, at least not that I know of, going from city to city asking for handouts. As a matter of fact, the head of the LVCVA, Steve Hill, said that he believes if the county doesn't give the money up to the Oakland Athletics, they're just going to find another city to live in, which will actually fund their hopes and dreams. But you tell me in the comments below what you actually think about this. I'm curious to know because it's such a horrible situation for the people who live here and for the tourists who are going to come here and miss out on this iconic property. My name is Steven. I'm not leaving Las Vegas. This is a Vegas analysis channel that does long-form documentary style videos too. So be sure to subscribe. I love you for watching. I love you, sweet Caroline. I can't wait till you get back later on this summer. Now's the time of the video where I say 3, 2, 1, click. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, and click!